so I'm ready to go. Welcome to the Heights Unedited podcast, a podcast featuring real conversations about real life where we dig deeper into the weekend message as well as answering your questions on faith, culture, and life. My name's Todd.
I think we should have different characters for you. So like one time you started out, you're a German character, right? So you got a German accent.
I got two different accents.
Yeah. I think we should have. So you got the radio announcer, and then we just pick different ones. And each time you get the point, you just kind of...
You just never know what you're going to get.
You just tell everybody.
I was wondering if we would have like because it is the season. I was wondering if we'd have like some Christmas intro.
Christmas
like
jingle to come in?
Yeah. We got our normal intro.
Not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much. We got the same jam and a point. So there you go.
Yeah, we got the point and we're rolling now. So welcome, everybody. So glad that you are joining us today. My name is Todd and I'm with PJ.
Somebody this week, I think I was walking into church and she goes, "Hi, PJ." And like, it didn't resonate at first. Like I turned back. I'm like,
Okay. You know what's funny about that is I was walking in that same door and she stopped me and she goes, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" She goes, "Can I really call him PJ?"
Oh my gosh.
I was like, absolutely. You should call him PJ. Man. So yeah, I knew that was going to happen and I'm glad it happened. So
it happened.
That's good. Well, I do want to thank everyone who is listening. I got a lot of great feedback this week
it's super humbling.
For our Thanksgiving episode, which was... we talked about our Thanksgiving traditions and people loved it.
So did you do yours?
That's good. No, because my kid's in the braces. Mm-hmm. So no, not this year. So we're going to save it for Christmas.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we'll do it then. But people have been enjoying this and we do have more 5-star reviews coming in. We got a couple to read here. First is from A Fancy, not B Fancy, A Fancy.
Or C Fancy.
Yeah, we got A game right here. They say, "Love these two."
Did you ever wonder? Okay, I know you're about to read from A Fancy,
but
did you ever wonder, like, what does A Fancy look like? Who is that?
Not sure.
I'm always there was one yesterday on the YouTube channel that was in the chat that during the service, Sis. I'm like, okay,
I know. And Sis then went back in and said they're actually watching from Anchorage, Alaska. That's where they were at. Watching.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I can't remember where I thought they were from.
I don't know. You said somewhere else during the service, but they clarified.
Oh, I said Arkansas.
Yeah, you said Arkansas.
What's Alaska?
I don't know.
Isn't AK Arkansas?
I think AK might be Alaska. Just judging on what they told us after. So,
I'm English, not my fault.
Yeah, it's not your fault. But you did tell the whole church, and they clarified you were watching from Alaska.
Sorry.
All right, 5-star rating from A Fancy says, "Love these two. Love the dynamic between Pastor John and Pastor Todd. Definitely should do a spinoff named Jesus and Football."
Let's go. I'm kind of surprised you're here today. I'm not gonna lie.
Why? I told you a couple weeks ago. We were done a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but it got worse last night.
Yeah, I mean,
like you can be done and then you can be that.
Yeah.
Although I will give you this: McCaffrey stays in the game. You look like a different team.
He looked so good starting the game.
I mean, he looked like Cook, right? Cook. It was a running game.
He looked like his old self. Yep. And then the injury, out for the season.
Yep.
Good luck. Awesome.
So there it goes. Even further.
There we go. They got us distracted on a review into a football conversation.
I know. Well done.
Incredible.
Well done. That's pretty
incredible.
Pretty
5-star rating.
Or they just teed us up.
They did. They tried. They had a bet going. They're like, I bet I could get them onto a football conversation.
I didn't think about this. What a bad weekend. Snow game. We lose. No, that was a week ago. That was longer. Never mind. Lost track of my days.
Yeah, there he is. Okay, well, we do have another review coming in from PB&B. And I actually do know what this stands for. Peanut butter and banana. Ooh. And I do know who wrote this.
Oh.
I'm not going to revel it, but PB&B says, "A little bit of everything. So far, I have made it to the end of every podcast." Just for that.
Just for them.
They say, though I'm not a sports nut, the opening banter makes for a good icebreaker, and the sermon follow-up is wisely insightful.
Wow.
I glean something valuable from it every week, but I really want to commend the way you two have responded to some very difficult and serious questions.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
I'm curious now who it is, because good icebreaker, that term doesn't come naturally unless you're like around. You've been around ministry, or in some regards, like you've done the grind to go, I need an icebreaker.
I feel like this is a whole nother segment on the show. Is like The Masked Singer, where they give you clues.
Yeah,
and you have to figure out who it is. Like we're trying to figure out who the review is based on the clues that we get.
But yes, no, that's super kind. Very kind.
That's good. Well, if you have a 5-star review, go ahead and submit that for us. Again, if you have any other stars, don't submit that one. But if you have a 5-star review and you'd like to leave us a review, you can do that on the podcast app. So thank you guys for that. We do have some questions coming in as well that we're going to hop right into. If you have questions, please email us unedited@heightschurch.com. Let us know any questions you have about life, faith, church, the sermon that weekend, whatever you want.
Be whatever. About football.
In fact, here comes the first question. You ready? Amanda asks, we love y'all and have been going to Heights for 4 years now, and I have a burning question for Pastor Todd. Here it is for me.
Here it is.
Why 49ers and not the Chargers?
Ooh, it's a good one because you're San Diego everything.
I am. Here's why. San Diego doesn't have a football team. They left. I was a Chargers fan for 30 years.
Ooh.
I was a Charger fan for a very long time and went to Chargers games. Have pictures of
that stadium's like that old stadium was like the concrete jungle. Like, I went to a Coldplay concert there. That's the only time I've ever been there.
A ton of sporting events there because the San Diego State Aztecs used to play there as well.
Was it good for sporting?
I mean, it was all we knew. I loved it because I grew up in that place. Like Padres and Chargers both shared it. So I was there for both of those.
Oh, wow.
And then the San Diego State football team, I was there many weekends. I loved it. And then also there for Supercross and Monster Jam and all the other things too. It was the stadium in San Diego. So grew up being a Chargers fan big time. And when they left, they broke my heart. And so I wasn't a fan of any team for a couple years. And then I was living in the Bay Area. And in the Bay Area, you have two options, the Raiders or the 49ers. The Raiders are in the same division as the Chargers, so I grew up hating the Raiders.
Well,
so
everybody hates
a Raiders fan.
Unless you're a Raiders fan, everybody hates the Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. But I went there and was like, no way. And so then started checking out the 49ers, became a 49ers fan before they got good, which now they're back to being bad again. But before they got good, and have been a 49ers fan for the last few years. So that's the answer to that.
Yeah, there you go.
Man,
that's
burning,
quite the journey.
Burning question.
That's quite the journey, man. There's a lot of heartache in there. We could camp there for a while.
We could unpack. This could be a counseling session.
Well, they went to LA. I mean, that's the bigger slap in the face.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you went to, I don't know, Arkansas, right? It doesn't have a football team. You went to LA. Nobody cares about football in LA.
My favorite football players, two of them, all-time favorite, is Junior Seau, longtime Charger, defensive player. He was
phenomenal.
And then LaDainian Tomlinson, Chargers
also
running back. So, yep, there you go. Yep.
Wow.
All right, well.
Amanda, great question.
Great question, though. On to our next question. Lou says this. They recently read a book chocked full of hot toddy takes.
Ooh.
There we go. Using that. They put it in quotes, too.
Yeah, I like it.
And one of the chapters talks about how we are uniquely shaped and wired, and it poses 5 questions. The questions are, what do I like doing? What am I good at? What frustrates me about the world? What is in front of me right now? And who am I doing it for? And so all those questions are to get us to really figure out, how has God shaped us? What does he want us to serve? And so they go on in Lou in the email goes on to say that these questions have led them to where they're at now, to being an inspiring Christian children's picture book author.
Wow.
And so, just all the...
So let me catch everybody up. You wrote a book.
I did, yeah.
Lou read it.
Yes.
And Lou now wants to be an inspiring children's picture book author.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's pretty incredible.
Yep. So
it's pretty cool.
Talents mixed with what bothers them about the world, and the content for kids is one of those things. And so Lou then follows this up with a couple questions for us. As fathers, what advice can you give to others trying to safeguard littles in this area?
Okay. Can I go back to the other part?
Sure.
Because something you said, I think, is really important for people to get. I feel like people are always trying to figure out like purpose in life. And what I love about even where Lou goes with his question is it's born out of burden. right? Yep. So he's got this burden for content for children. And so God has hardwired him for that. And so I think that idea of like people figuring out what's my burden? Like what is it that when I look at the world from the lens of being a believer, from the lens of Jesus restoring and changing, like what's my burden that's unique? And that sounds like, I haven't read the book, but that sounds like kind of what you're aiming at, right? Like how's God uniquely wired me, but also what unique burden has he placed with me?
Yeah. The way I've said it before is I've done like talks on this idea is, you know, the old Popeye cartoon where he like gets picked on or whatever happens over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And then finally he like erupts and what he says is I've had all I can stands and I can't stands no more. Right. And then he pops the spinach and gets jacked and does something about it. I think it's that feeling that we have is when we're looking around the world and we see things like trafficking or we see things like, you know, poverty, hunger, whatever it is that you see around you. That you're so burdened for that you're like, man, I can't stand any more of this and I need to do something.
So good.
And, you know, I think that's really what it comes down to.
And I think if you don't have that, as a follower of Jesus, if you don't have a burden, then you don't have a purpose. And I think you got to spend time to go with God. And if you don't have one, like intentionally going, God, what is it that is my burden? Right? Yeah. Like, what is it that is within me that I just can't stand this and I've got to change the world.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's why we're here.
Yeah. And honestly, that's why I got into youth ministry. We're totally off topic here now.
But I think it's
kind of on topic.
It's a great conversation.
That's where I got in is really what burdened me was seeing teenagers overlooked in the church. And they were an afterthought. It was childcare. It was something that wasn't for them. And then the other piece that burdened me was, and obviously everyone knows this, if you've heard me talk before, is just the idea of being fake in church. Yeah. And I was burdened so much for the idea of fake it till you make it, and the idea that students are overlooked. And those are the two things that came together for me when it came to student ministry. Is going, man, I have to be a youth pastor because I need to pour into students and help them not be overlooked and help them understand that they can be real.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's phenomenal. So that resonates because, so for me, the reason I went to Bible school was one, God had been in my life my whole life, didn't know him. The bigger reason in going was in my teens, I went off the rails and I was in the pubs in England, and the church wouldn't go into the pubs. And so there was this gulf to me of the church is over here in their holy huddle, and over here where I'm dying, I'm literally just throwing my life away. And you're not coming and engaging, right? Like you're actually making me choose a side. And so my burden was, man, I'm going to go to Bible college. I'm going to go get educated, and I'm coming back to England. And I'm going to bridge that gap. Which was funny is God's used that everywhere I've gone. Like even at Heights, hospitable is one of our why, because that we should be bridging like to the spaces where Jesus isn't.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's
all right,
good.
We got way off.
Okay, we got way off. What Lou asks is, as fathers, what advice can you give to others trying to safeguard littles in this area?
Is that, he's asking specifically like with content, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a constant battle because the world's changing so quickly that I feel like you've got to always be changing to, okay, what content at what age will I allow my kid to consume? And then, so an example, like in our world is, you know, when the kids were little, it was going, okay, what is kind of the heart of the shows they're watching, right? Like what, and I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you have, you got littles. Bluey.
Oh yeah.
Bluey's phenomenal.
Bluey's so good.
Right. And it's actually having conversations aimed at adults.
Oh yeah. The whole time.
But the kids don't pick up on that. So what the kids get is the moral out of it. Right. And so Bluey is one in our house that man, we love it when our kids watch it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think all the way through, whether it was years ago where it was easier to control the content, or it's like now, like controlling what books, right? Like making sure that the books that are put in their space are books that are going to help them either grow educationally or grow towards Jesus. And I think another big part of that is asking other parents and finding out what. I think Right Now Media, one of the reasons we got Right Now Media was some parents were going, hey, is there any Christian content that's aimed at my kids? Mm-hmm. And we were like, yeah, there's stuff made. And so that was one of the gifts to the church. One of the goals of it was that families would have a different option for their kids if that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So what about you? What do you do?
I would just say
you're right in the throes of that, man.
Yeah. Well, I think the advice that I would give is know what your kids are watching. I think we give more freedom to our kids in that area. Example of this that we failed at this last weekend is, we're off for Thanksgiving. Kids are sitting around, and my kids love Christmas movies. And so finding Christmas movies. So they're like, we're watching a Christmas movie. I'm like, okay, I don't care.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's not rated PG-13 or anything. I'm like, okay, then watch it. I don't care. And then one of my kids comes in and starts telling me the plot that involves like a club with some dancers and some other things that I'm like, hold up, what is happening? So we like had to go in and be like, all right, we're not going to watch this movie.
Yeah.
And it's just an example of, there's so much access to it that a lot of times we have a rule that I do watch what they watch before they watch it. My wife and I know what's happening.
Yep.
Well, this one, we slipped on our own rule and this is what happened. And I think that good advice for all parents is just know what your kids are reading and watching before they read and watch.
That's solid. Well, I think what's funny with that, you ever done I watched this movie as a kid. This movie was great. And you put it on and you're like, oh, I don't remember any of this.
Yes,
why was I allowed to watch this as a kid? It's like,
all the
wait
time.
A minute. I would just throw on there too, like just as an example. So Bailey's now 13. I don't get it because it's not my thing. She loves YouTube. Mm-hmm. She loves creators that are creating like with their hands, like it used to be slime when she was much younger, right? Like now it's this whole crochet thing, and she loves different creators. Well, she's kind of at the point where she's going, we've only ever let her have YouTube Kids, and she's going, I'd really like to see the content that's aimed at an older.
Yeah. And
so we were having this was a real conversation in our house this week. Me researching when you put restricted on, what does it actually block? Mm-hmm. So what is she protected from? And what she's not protected from is conversations we don't want her to hear, right? Like at the age she's at. And so we had this whole conversation of trust with her. Like, we're going to give you something, but there's and so we set parameters on that. You can't have ear pods in. You have to be in a main room. Mm-hmm. You have to so I think some of it is, you just got to work through the age and stage of your kids. But then also, to your point, what are the parameters we've put in place to help?
Right. Yeah, that's all good. That's all good stuff for that. Well, following on there, the children's picture book author Lane, Lou asks, what type of children's books are your favorite to read? Like rhyming, funny, like things like that. You have any?
I'm so bad. I haven't read just being honest, I haven't read children's books for.
I know it's been a minute. No, for me, I would say the silly ones. Like there are some serious ones that there's some tearjerkers. There's some serious ones that I'm reading it to my 2-year-old, and I'm like, like getting choked up there. But then there's also the silly ones. I think are the most fun. Really, for me, the favorite ones are the texture ones. If they have like the fur in it, you can touch.
Or it's like sandpaper for one.
Exactly.
Or yeah. But there was the other ones that used to make. I don't know if they still make them or not because we haven't bought them for a while. But you hit it and it makes the sound of the animals.
Yeah,
I always liked those. I just thought it was fun and interactive.
Yep. Okay. Well, last question from Lou here is: Christian content can carry a stereotype to some as being boring. Do you have any advice on how to make the Christian genre more appealing to believers and to non-believers?
Absolutely. This is you talk about burdens.
There we go.
This is a burden of mine, right? Like, in the speaking context, I heard Howard Hendricks years ago say, if you're going to bore people, bore them with Shakespeare, but don't bore them with the Word of God. And that's been a mantra for me when it comes to speaking. Like, it's my job to make this engaging, not their job, right? And I think the same with this. I think the Christian world has been. Oh man, this is going to sound. We're unedited. Here we go. The Christian world is lazy, right? That you're creating content, taking the lowest hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. But we're supposed to be the light of the world. And God has wired all of humanity for story. And so in this context, to me, it's like you need to take a story like Jesus did and make it engaging for somebody that doesn't know Jesus.
Right.
Right. But it leaves them either in a space where they want more, but it doesn't fully reconcile. I think that's the other piece that church does or feels like they have to do is I've got to reconcile this in 30 minutes. No, you don't. You need to make people walk away processing and having a conversation. And so I think the same with the book. I think, as you tell your story, I don't think you have to hit every point that you need to hit for it to be Christian content.
Yeah.
I think it's, take a good moral story that stands for the things of Jesus and tell a really good story that's compelling. That'll get you further than, I gotta make sure that people know without a doubt this is Christian content.
Yeah. Yeah. I think relating to non-believers in any aspect, and this could go to writing, speaking, just having a conversation at work. I think the best advice I can give in that is we don't realize how much Christianese or Christian language we use until you stop and think about it. I've been coaching a couple young leaders in the church on their speaking. They've been speaking in different areas, and so they want to expand that. And so they were speaking a couple of weeks ago, and I sat and listened to them, and just the phrases that you don't realize you're using, like the word believer.
Yeah.
If you're not a believer, who the heck's a believer? What does that mean? Like, are we singing a Journey song? Like, what is this? But the things that we say often, we don't realize are very Christian niche type stuff. So if you use it in a book or you use it in a speech or you use it even in a conversation, it ostracizes people that aren't Christians. So,
well, my first thing when you read that, which ties into what you're saying, is just be normal.
Yeah.
Just be normal, right? Like what is it that you enjoy? What is it that your family, your friends, your whoever enjoy? And just go from a lane of we're relating on a human level, not I've got to get you somewhere, right? And I think I've seen it with you over and over. I think Pastor Bob comes to mind for that. Like, you guys are so easy at hanging with anybody. Pastor Earl, like I laugh often at his stories of what happens on a Wednesday night at the recovery Bible study, right? Because it says Bible study on it. We think it's going to be Christianese, and you get there and the questions that are being asked have got all kinds of cuss words and all kinds of, or the explanation, instead of amen, it's something else that they're saying that you go, can you say that in here? And I think that's part of it is, what does it look like to engage people who are very different than you?
Yeah. That's good. Good stuff. Good stuff there. Lou also proposes something at the end of their email to us. They propose a new nickname for you.
Okay.
So are you ready to move on from PJ?
I've been ready for a while.
You've been ready for a while. Well, they found out somehow that your middle name is Mark, and the word and Mark means hammer. So they would like to start calling you John the Hammer Challenor.
Yeah, let's not. A couple of reasons. The hammer is terrible. Going back to what we just talked about. The second thing is Lewis Hamilton is Hammer Time.
Oh,
I don't want to be associated with Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, there you go.
Not a chance.
That's an F1 reference for
F1 reference for those of you that just got it.
They also said that everyone looks forward to the sounds you make at the end of the podcast. So if you don't know what that is, then stick around at the end of the podcast.
You'll find out.
And then they also threw in, here it is, but they're sure that David the Beard could hook us up with a soundbite. There it is. The Beard. Your new nickname. How do you feel about it? It's great. He said it's great. Awesome. Perfect. So if you see
he's currently shaving,
refer to him as the Beard.
The Beard.
Well, let's hop
Who's
into the
producing
weekend
today? The Beard.
The Beard is on it.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's hop into the weekend, into Advent season. We started this last weekend with a collection of talks called Happy to Be. Yep. And the idea is that Jesus is happy to be with us. My question for you is, how is this contrary to how we usually view God, Jesus, and all of that?
I think going back to, again, who's in the room, right? Going back to who's going to hear this collection of talks, right? Like what is the average person thinking? God puts up with me. Yeah. At best, he likes me on good days, right? Like at average, he probably is disappointed with me. He probably doesn't want to show up, on a Monday morning. And so it's kind of looking at it and going, no, when you look at the story arc, it's God can't wait to be with you. Mm-hmm. And he's done everything possible to make that. And so that whole idea of happy to be, I even caught myself today, like just pausing and going, God is happy to be right now with me doing, and I wasn't even doing my, I wasn't reading the Bible. I was working out actually. And it's like, wait a minute, God is happy to be right now in this moment with me. I was like, it just, for whatever reason, it just kind of stopped me dead in my tracks to kind of sit in it and just be grateful for, wow, God, you're here. And it's not, I don't like working out, especially with this, you know what I mean? But like more of it's that relational component to it, right?
And when you think of that perspective, there's such great lengths in scripture and just in general that God went to for us, man. Sending his son to the earth to die for us as a baby, all the things. It's like, you don't do that unless you're happy to be.
Yeah.
Like that is showing that. But I think without that perspective shift, we think of it as a chore maybe for God or, something other than just genuinely happy to be with us.
Yeah. Well, that whole line, right, of putting up, like it's, he doesn't want to do it, but he's God, so he kind of has to. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a flip on that of no, like he is God and he wants to. So it's huge.
Yeah, well, and man, in real terms of parenting, how much my kids do this all the time, where I'll tell them something like, "Oh, I'm so glad I get to hang out with you," and they'll go, "Dad, you have to. You're my dad." And I'm like, "No, I really genuinely want to hang out with you," But we do the same thing with God.
Yeah.
Well, you have to. You're God.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So our Thanksgiving, we went to our normal thing with my brother-in-law and their family, and then afterwards went over to see Rhino and Beckham. Let's be honest, we were really going for Beckham.
Yeah.
But you're tired at that point. It's been not even a chore.
Yes.
Like just so excited to be there, get to hold him for 30 minutes, whatever. Right. Like that's God towards us.
Yeah. That's good. Well, this weekend we unpacked the idea of joy. And one of the things you said is that joy is the fuel your brain runs on. And I was like, man, that is so good. I love that. And then
totally stole it.
I'm sure you
Jim Wilder. That's all him. That's all his.
It's so good. And then it goes into joy is relational, and therefore joy comes through proximity. Right? Yep. You have to be in proximity and in relationship to experience it. So my question is, how do we maintain proximity to God as our source of joy?
Yeah, that's good. So I probably have a different answer today than I would have, a couple of months ago when this was percolating. I think a couple of months ago, you go into all the, you could have your quiet time. You could have your, your prayer time. You could go to your life group. You could, and that idea of proximity coming by me moving towards versus proximity is me being aware God is already here.
Ooh,
and good. So like the change for me is from something we do to something we are. Like that God longs to and has made a way to be present right here, right now in this conversation.
That's good.
That God's made a way to be present when I'm working out. That God's, and so I think that idea of joy, and especially like the fuel, like when you put it in the concept of a car, like we all know your car runs out of gas, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And yet with joy, to know that we're designed, and Jim Wilder's the one that's done the research and the study, and to know that your brain is designed by God to experience joy. And joy comes in the form of knowing he's happy to be with me, right? Like, so my brain functions better, right? Like my brain actually goes somewhere when I sit and go, okay, I'm going to use the right side and I'm going to sit in this moment and go, okay, what do I feel? It's funny. I've been trying this just because of doing the mess. I mean, you know how it is. You're leading up to, you're like, is this true? Like this is the moments I pause and go, God's happy to be with me right now. it does something internally and it does something to the brain. And I don't have the science I have the book that talks about the science, but I don't physically know the breakdowns of why that works or what it is. But it's that like stopping to go, this is what we're designed for.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I think that when we focus on this idea of joy, like we find all the areas that it's like gratitude and thankfulness.
Yeah.
When we focus on this, we start realizing all these areas that it's like, man, I can be joyful because of all of these things. And ultimately from the relational component that comes from a relationship with God. But, I think we gloss over it in the busyness of life and not realize the joy that comes, and even in this season too, like, what are some reminders that we can give ourselves when we find ourselves kind of void of joy during this season? Like, I think it is something we have to remind ourselves. What would you say are some reminders that when the chaos of Christmas season comes, what do we need to do?
I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but where my brain goes is especially in this season, we compare happiness with joy, right? So I got my caramel brulee latte, therefore I am happy right now, right? Like, and I think joy being so opposite, that in this season it's very difficult for a lot of people. Like there's so much pain connected to Christmas, and I got a friend of mine who their dad passed away around Christmas, and every year, like this grief cycle hits with Christmas, right? And I think that's what's been beautiful in discovering this, is going, wait a minute. You preached, I don't remember, 3 years ago on joy? Something like that.
One of these Christmases.
One of those Christmases. But I just remember so starkly you talking about circumstances, right? And we have that line that circumstances don't determine my joy. And we all go, yeah, that's true. But this now gives language to why that's true. Because in your circumstances, in your dad not being there this Christmas, God is happy to be with you in the midst of that pain. He's not waiting for you to get out of the pain to go, hey, now we're joyful. Now we'll go sing carols, or, well, nobody does that anymore, but we'll go see the Valley of Lights and we'll be all happy. I think that's the piece of in this season being aware, like pausing long enough to go, he is here and he is happy to be with me. Yeah. And that makes this joyful. And so I think it's the intentional pauses, slowing down, put stuff on your phone, remind yourself. I mean, even if you just put on there, he's happy to be with me today.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
I don't know.
That's good. Well, Advent is always a fun time of year. As we continue that over the next couple weeks, excited this weekend, we're going to dive into the idea of peace. And so that will be
and this week you're up
for us. Yeah. Yes, that'll be me. So we'll see what I can come up with between now and just kidding. I got it all ready to go. I'm excited for it. But we do have another question we want to hit before we make it to the end of the podcast club, which if you have not made it to the end, which by the way, I had a couple people come up to me and ask me, hey, I've made it to like 3. What do I get? And I'm like, you need to go talk to John about that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. We'll figure that out. The beard will help us figure that out.
The beard. You can help us out.
I had somebody too text me at church. I think it was at church yesterday. Maybe it was the day before. It was Saturday night because it was in PV. Hey, the mug that's on the podcast, how do I get one?
We should auction them off to into the podcast club members.
Hey, there we go.
We do have another question. Like I said,
got all kinds of ideas out here.
They're flowing. Ryan asks this question, which by the way, if you don't know how to ask a question, unedited at heightschurch.com. Go ahead and send an email there. Again? Unedited at heightschurch.com. There's my announcer voice coming back. But Ryan asks this, I want to follow Jesus, but I continue to slip into old patterns. Many of my friends aren't Christians and don't follow Jesus. How do I continue to grow in my faith when my friends don't help?
Man, Ryan, first of all, like for me, you slipping into old patterns, I think we can all relate to that.
Yes.
Like that's not a unique to you. I think one of the things that comes to mind is as you grow, And as you realize, hey, I'm slipping into these patterns, you begin to analyze why. What is it that is triggering me slipping into this pattern, right? So it sounds like for him, he's gone, hey, one of the things that's triggering for me is friends.
Yeah.
And that can be a hard one, right? Because, friends are people, hopefully, that you like to be around, that you like to do stuff with, that, we talk about happy to be with, that you're experiencing joy with, that, and yet, if all of my friends or the ones I surround myself with, there's that old line of show me your friends, I'll show you your future, right? Like, so if all of your friends are stuck in hey, they're not following Jesus, even if they know Jesus, they're not following, it's going to be really hard for you to influence them the other way when you're struggling and so I would say you need a community outside of your friends that are going to help you, one, through the struggles of the old sin patterns, but also that are going to push you into new patterns. But this is your world, man. You live this for so many years and walk with people.
I think the idea of friend is one you have to dive into. I think a lot of times we confuse what a friend is with just people that like doing the same activities we do.
That's good.
And so, especially in youth ministry, I'll have students that are like, man, but these are my friends that I smoke weed with, or these are my friends that I drink with. And I'm like, they're not your friends.
Yep.
They just like the activity that you guys do together.
It's really good.
And so, Ryan, I don't know your friends in the context of this, but usually when you're saying I'm slipping back into these patterns and these friends aren't helping, it's because in order to hang out with these friends, you're having to go to the parties that they're going to. And I would just, encourage you to dive into the idea of friendship.
Yep.
Are they really your friend? What is a friend? Because a friend loves and cares for you regardless of what you are doing with them.
Yep.
And they want to continue to be your friends. Now,
and they want the best for you.
Yeah, they want the best for you. And that medium of what you do is what you spend time with them to build friendship with, know. So whether it's, coming over and playing darts or hanging out, like those are the things that you do in order to facilitate that friendship. So I do, acknowledge that. I'm not saying like, well, you got to get into an activity that, is contrary to your Christian belief in order to be their friend. Like, no, we're not doing that. But I would just really challenge what does that friend look like, and find friends that will care for you regardless of what you do with them.
Yeah. I was probably 18 and a half. And I had a life-changing experience with Jesus in America, and I had to go home. And home, because I was on a visitor visa, so I couldn't stay, right? And so I had to go back to the context where I just spent years away from Jesus, like I said, in pubs, that kind of stuff, right? And I remember I got home, and it was kind of a lonely season because the Christians were all skeptical of my life change. And so they weren't befriending me. And then I had all these unsaved friends that we had a lot of activities together, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I got home, I went to try out for the local soccer team. And I just thought it was a good way. I love soccer, and they were holding open tryouts. And wouldn't you know it, some of my unsaved friends were there. Mm. And they came up to me and they go, hey, this was after the tryout was done. They go, hey, we're going to the pub. You want to come with us? And I said, man, I can't do that anymore. I said, it's just not good for me. I said, but I would love to hang out, and gave them like 3 or 4 different, I'd love to play football together. I'd love to, and they literally turned around, walked away, and I've never talked to them since. Like they wanted nothing to do, right? And this was before cell phones, when you could text and whatever. But it was just a stark contrast for me. It was exactly what you just expressed. I realized these friends, to be friends with them, I have to do these things over here that I know aren't good for me,
right?
And they're going to lead to other stuff. And so it was just this moment of choice, and it was a lonely season, if I'm honest. But God provided friends, in the true sense of friends, in spaces I never would have expected. And that there was a 9-month window there where God really provided these friends that I didn't know them before. And God was faithful to put people in my path. And so sometimes it means that you got to go, hey, I can't do this because it's not good for me. Right. It doesn't mean that you're going, hey, you're evil and I want nothing. It just goes, no, the activity we've grown this camaraderie around, this friendship around, is really an activity friendship. and I can't do that because of what it does for me and my faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so to summarize it, Ryan, I would suggest finding new friends, but I would also not say dumping your old friends.
No, don't dump them.
Don't do that.
If they walk away, that's one thing.
Yeah, if they walk away, that's one thing, but be a part of their life. Statistics show, I don't know them specifically, but I've referenced them in a message I've done before, is I think it's 6 years of being in the church. Like 90% of people don't have a single friend outside of the church. They just
say that again.
After 6 years of being within the church, so somebody is a Christian, that becomes their life. 90% of people don't have any friends outside of the church.
Wow.
All their circle are saved people. No, they don't know anyone who's not saved. That is not the call.
No,
to be a follower of Jesus. We are to be a light to the world, which means, Ryan, you need to be a light to those people in your life, but you also can't allow them to influence you and not help you grow in your faith as well. So I would say find new friends. Don't dump your old ones either. So have a balance of both there.
Well, and statistics show too, by maintaining that relationship, let's call it a relationship instead of friendship, right? By maintaining that relationship, when they hit a wall, they'll call you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's pretty consistent over and over.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have made it to the end of the podcast club.
Whoa, Mr. Blackley, do we have any sounds over there?
He had one that he was showing us earlier. Can we just give him one? Just give him one. Just give him one little. Oh, isn't that terrible?
Come on.
That's terrible.
It sounds like that. You know when your TV does all the colors and it's like the emergency broadcast thing? That's exactly what it is.
So people are not going to want to make it to the end if that's what
we probably should go.
There it is, folks. You've made it to the end of the podcast. And if that's you, thank you so much for being with us.
Dumb.
You can go ahead and subscribe. You can go ahead and share this with somebody. You can go ahead and rate and review. We would love to read your review on the show. If you have questions, don't forget to submit those because we want to answer them with real answers to real questions.
It would be really interesting. I don't know how you do this. David might be able to help us, but I'd be curious, just like, I think it was Lou was asking about the kids' books, like which ones. I'd be curious, are questions more helpful for people? Recapping the message, is it everything combined together? It'd be fun to get some feedback.
Yeah, let us know. However you find us on stage, come talk to us. No, don't do that. You'll get tackled. Yeah. But final thought for you today. Jesus is happy to be with you. That's good. All right. See you guys.
Love you.